Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us. I'm Sarina Fazan. Today, I'm interviewing David Duquette. He is a local financial advisor with Park Avenue Securities and financial representative with Guardian. David Duquette, thank you so much for joining us.
Sarina, I appreciate you having me and looking forward to the interview.
Thank you. And before we get started, I want to mention that David is the founder of Impact Medical Advisors, a firm that helps many people learn how to build and maintain their wealth, just to give some of your background. So David, let's get started. So many people right now, clearly so fearful with the coronavirus pandemic, the crisis on many levels, not just health, also the financial market. People are nervous with how this is affecting their financial future. Should people be panicking at this point?
It's a great question, Sarina. To be honest, it's perfectly normal to panic and to be nervous when situations like this occur. I mean, this is not only affecting your financial life, but potentially your health. So it's normal, and understanding that it's normal to be nervous during these time frames, I think is important. I think keeping in mind, however, we tend not to make great financial decisions or decisions in general when we are nervous or when we're emotional. So when you're managing the decisions you're making at this time, you want somebody hopefully there to help you out to remove the emotion from the decision-making process.
And that's when a professional like you can come in.
Correct. That's where my job aligns well with my clients, just looking at the situation and not reacting emotionally during these time frames.
So taking that into perspective, what are some actions right now, David, that people can take? Do you have some tips for us?
Yeah, so there's several things that people can do, and obviously it really depends on their current situation. So make sure that when you are considering making any changes or making any decisions, you're consulting with your professional, whether that be your financial professional, your tax professionals, or your attorneys as well. Now, what we're seeing nowadays, though, is the importance of being proactive, especially in your financial situation, rather than reactive. Nobody could foresee what happened with this particular situation, where our country, almost as a whole, has shut down. So it's making it very difficult for people to work. They may be working from home, hopefully, so that their job is at least maintained. But we've had a major situation arise that has rocked a lot of worlds. So making sure that you're being proactive, you building the appropriate emergency funds. So if money does come in, this is not the time to be making major purchases. If you have some form of inconsistency in income, obviously, you want to start to hoard all of the cash that you have, and that will help you better prepare to weather this storm. We're still unsure of obviously how long this will last.
And I think that's what's so nervous for people. We don't know how long it's going to last. And I know you're not a mind reader, of course. Those are great tips. So with your clients at this time, what is your role with them?
Yeah, so my role is just to help guide them through the decisions and the unique circumstances that they're going through. So, this could be people that have lost their jobs, people that are nearing retirement, many people in the medical community. So they're all going through different unique circumstances. For some, this is an opportunity to take advantage of. For others, we need to be more on the defensive side of the strategies. So it really just depends on the circumstances within their lives.
Just to go back a little bit, and when you were talking about right now is not the time to make huge financial purchases if you can't. How much of an emergency fund do you feel is efficient at this time?
So emergency funds vary person to person, and specifically if you own a business and you have your own personal life, of course, you almost need to double up on the advice. So when you're looking at this, you want to look at the volatility of your position and job and business to determine that, because it can be different. I think, a lot of the cookie cutter advice out there is just to hold, at least 6 months of expenses. And I think that's good advice. Doesn't mean that certain people need to hold more or potentially less than that, depending upon their circumstances. But I think that's a good baseline for everybody to start at least developing an emergency fund that is in the vicinity of 6 months of expenses. If you are a business owner, this is 6 months of your personal expenses and potentially 6 months of business expenses, maintaining employees and so forth that need to take place.
But David, what if you don't have the emergency funds?
And that's what people are struggling with now. So there are certainly people now, obviously hindsight is 2020. So in this situation, if you currently don't have the emergency funds, this is when you need to hoard everything that is coming in. So if there are any of the government programs that you are participating in getting at any of that money, I don't believe you should sit there and pay off a major credit card at this point. People potentially have debt, but that should go on the back burner. You need to make sure that you have cash on hand. Speak with a financial professional. So this is just because there might not be a ton of money right now, or your income has been potentially cut, maybe completely, right? Or depends, could be cut in half altogether. At this time, it's still a good idea to talk to your financial advisor. It's still a good idea to talk to your accountant to figure out, to strategize, and best implement the plan of attack moving forward.
And I want to ask you about that. What if you don't have a financial advisor or an accountant? Right now the time to try to find one? And would you have any advice or guidance on trying to choose the right person?
Yeah, it's a great question. So if you don't have one, I would say that you're going to tend to want to look around your community and first talk to friends and family. They should, people in your lives and the successful financial people in your lives should have a great team of financial professionals. So maybe ask them for a recommendation. You want to do your research. Obviously, I'm here to help anybody that has any questions. I could certainly ask, or I could certainly answer and help take some phone calls just to see if they are having any problems. But it's one of those things that you need to make sure that, first off, you like the person you're working with. I think that's a very important consideration. Somebody that's working with your finances throughout your life should be in your life numerous times a year for countless years, right? So working with somebody that you don't enjoy their company or that you are dreading their phone call, really, it's too short of a life to deal with people that we don't enjoy working with. So I think obviously working with people that you actually like to work with is important as well.
And certainly you need to trust them. You're right, because it's your money, right? This is the greatest trust.
And question the advice, right? This is the time, our industry has a tendency at times to talk over people's head, and that drives me insane. This job should be to simplify complex issues so that you are comfortable making decisions on your own, right? Our job is not to, kind of recommend something and you to not necessarily understand what that recommendation should be for. Ask questions, be inquisitive. You want to understand what you're doing with your money, especially in times like this, so that you are comfortable when life throws us curveballs.
And this certainly has been a huge, huge one that none of us anticipated. I do want to go back to something about the emergency fund and what you mentioned about the credit cards. And if you do get some cash and, try to keep the cash, is now the time also to call your credit card companies, try to get a lower interest rate, or maybe move some money around if you can to lower interest rate cards, or perhaps some people have a home equity line? I mean, right now is the goal to put the money where there's, you know, the lowest interest rate that you have to pay?
Yes. So at this point in time, you should be calling every institution you deal with, whether that's your mortgage company, your credit card, your student loans. You want to get to know what kind of offers there are during this time frame. And you also want to consult with the professionals in that field. So your financial advisor, you want to consult with your mortgage professional, your accountant, your attorneys, to make sure that they know what you are considering in those arenas as well. Because some of the offers are very much unclear out there. They're saying we may be able to stop or hold your mortgage for 3 months. You want to make sure that not all of those payments are due on the 4th month. That could put you in just as bad as a situation.
Right.
So before you make any of these decisions, make sure that you're reading the fine print and that you're consulting your attorneys, your CPAs, and your financial advisors to get them on the same page.
And I know sometimes with these phone calls, the hold times can be astronomical. I mean, hours at times. Should people just in general, are the phone calls worth it? You'd need to be patient, would you say, at this time?
What's the old adage? Patience is a virtue, right?
Right.
That can certainly test the limits. Sitting on hold for hours at a time with a mortgage company or a credit card company or whoever it may be. It is not fun. We may have more time on our hands now, though. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's easier to sit on hold for hours on end, because you may have kids running around as well while you're at home. So it's not easy, but it is worth the phone call. Right.
Okay.
These are the times that we just need to get through this environment, especially if you're struggling or if you lost your job or potentially are struggling in your business. You need to make sure that while as frustrating as that can be, you are making those phone calls.
And that is comforting to know coming from you, quite frankly, because I know you take a look at it and you're like, oh my gosh. Okay, taking a deep breath, do you think the market will rebound from all of this?
So I certainly don't predict the future, nor do I have a crystal ball. What I know is I have the utmost confidence in capitalism. So prior to this event, everything was going fairly well, and we have an isolated virus that we can see how that has affected our market. When that will recover, whatever that looks like, I have no idea. But I do have confidence that it will recover in the future. If we just look back into the past, we see events that the market has withstood some difficult times. I mean, we're talking the Great Recession, we're talking world wars, right? We've seen other health epidemics, although this is certainly different. We've seen the market rebound from things like this. So while I don't predict the future and I don't know, when the quote unquote bottom is, or if it has already happened, right? I have confidence that years from now, the market will continue to rebound through events that will happen in the future as well.
Thank you, David. And I do appreciate so much your optimism. It's very comforting. So as we look towards the future and as people get back to work, which we will be getting back to work, and I'm not saying people are not working now, clearly so many people are working from home, but when we get back into more of a normal routine, I guess I should say, what do you think people's financial focus should be? This certainly has been a lesson learned.
Absolutely. So once things are back to normal, whatever that looks like at this particular time, you need to make sure that if your relationship with your financial advisor, first off, has been solely based upon investments, you need to really reconsider what you're doing with your financial situation. It's an important piece of the puzzle to grow wealth, but we need to start focusing on the fundamentals that create success. The fundamentals are making sure that we protect our income for loss and that we're saving adequately. So the vast majority of Americans save less than 5% of their income, right? Most of that's going into things like 401ks, right? 403bs, 457s, and so forth, which is fine. So 5% of savings may not allow people to retire with dignity. So one of the major focuses that people should have coming out of this is, how do we learn how to save upwards of 20% of gross income, and do that on a systematic and intentional basis, to not that we save it into our savings account and then Christmas rolls around and we pull it all out, right? Or we save it into the savings account and then that vacation comes and we pull it out to pay for that. That's not actual savings, right? We should be systematically saving at least 20% of our gross income. And there are certainly ways to do that in making sure that we have liquidity and access to the vast majority of those funds, so that we can look at something like this as an opportunity rather than a negative event.
Absolutely. Stay optimistic and learn from it.
Correct.
So I guess that goes back to my very, very first question, that we should try to practice patience, prudence, and try not to panic.
Correct. Everybody's situation is different, so the level of panic is going to be different depending upon if you're just starting out in your career, somewhere in the middle of it, or towards the end of it. Those levels of panic will be unique and different to your situation. I think what this is shedding light on is that we need to be proactive. We have been in a society where we're always so busy, so it's difficult to take the time to work on your financial situation to make sure that it's the best situation for you. And hopefully this is waking some people up and saying, okay, I need to make sure that I'm well prepared for events like this in the future, and starting to be more proactive. And hopefully we come out of this better as a society, spending more time with our family, realizing the importance of, our work-life relationship and balance. I'm at least trying to come out of this with that positive outlook on it. And I think it's important during these stressful times to surround yourself with positive people, right? That will bring you up, rather than, there's a lot of negativity out there and we can dwell on it, and that's never going to help.
Some great advice. So David Duquette, do you have anything else that you would like to add for this interview?
So I truly appreciate, what you're doing, Sarina, and trying to educate the public out there on a vast array of different subjects, especially surrounding, the coronavirus or COVID-19. So definitely appreciate what you're doing out there. And like I said before, I'm here to help. If people have questions, feel free to reach out to me. Go to my website. I'm sure we can add all of that information after the fact. And reach out, ask questions, be inquisitive, to try to figure out how you can weather storms like this in the future and come out on top, and look at opportunities during times like this.
Thank you so much. I mean, that means the world. What is your website? We, of course, will add it, but if you don't mind just sharing with us right now.
Sure. So my firm's name is Impact Medical Advisors. My website is impactmedicaladvisors.com.
All right. Thank you so much. Once again, David Duquette, a local financial advisor with Park Avenue Securities and a financial representative with Guardian. Thank you for helping us not panic. We appreciate it.
You're welcome, Sarina. Have a great day.
You too.